Start this meeting of the Winnetka Village Council regular meeting, October 17, 2023. And we'll call this meeting to order. Please mute your cell phones and any other electronic devices. And I'll ask Manager Rob Bahan to do a roll call for attendance.
Sure. Trustee Handler?
Here.
Trustee Alvinson?
Here.
Trustee Dearborn?
Here.
And then Trustee Apatow would be
Here.
after this.
Okay. Trustee Apatow has provided the required notice that he is unable to attend tonight's meeting due to work obligations. Our rules provide that Trustee Apatow may participate remotely unless 2/3 of the board objects. Is there any objection to Trustee Apatow joining this meeting? No. No objection? Hearing none, Trustee Apatow may now participate remotely fully in the meeting, and the minutes should so reflect. We'll now move on to the Pledge of Allegiance, and Trustee Orsic will lead us. Flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I got her. Yeah.
Okay. Trustee Dahlman just joined us. Rob, do you want to do a quorum check?
Certainly. So the month of November is going to be pretty busy. Starts off with the November 3rd all-day budget review meeting. Hope that date is still good for everybody. Okay?
As you know, I won't be here.
Yes, I have you. Yeah. And then the meetings for November are the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st. Are there any conflicts? Okay, if there are, just let me know.
Okay, excellent, thank you. We now reached the moment of the meeting for public comment, and I would ask if anyone in the audience wants to speak about an item not on tonight's agenda, the podium would be yours.
Hi, Ted Winnichenko, my 3 minutes or so. So anyway, I came up to discuss three things sort of related. First, as you all know, because I sent an email about this, I am still very hopeful that the village will demand that the village attorney provide an accurate and correct interpretation of state law as it comes to the boundary between private and public land along Lake Michigan. In a prior email, the attorney stated that they needed, I left my paper in the car, direct and on-point Illinois decisions to show this. And there are, in fact, two. Kirk, People v. Kirk, and of course the original Smith v. Seaman, which every littoral owner seems to want to ignore, and the village has chosen to ignore as well. But in it, the Illinois Supreme Court unequivocally states that they see no reason to treat the shore of Lake Michigan different than any other seashore, and that the ordinary high water mark is the demarcation. That is their meaning of their use of the term the normal water line. It is not some fancy like, oh, the water's right here. It is what they used to describe the ordinary high water mark. The village attorney now has two direct cases. He can read the court's decision. It is unquestionable. So for $50,000, which is what the village has spent, give or take, for these opinions, they should get an accurate opinion. Second, I'm disappointed that the village leadership feels that they can spread lies and misinformation. Mr. Bernal, at the beach, with a police officer present, specifically said that he was told by the Corps of Engineers and the IDNR that I could be arrested for trespassing if I was in the water of the lake between the lateral boundaries of a shoreline construction project. There are so many problems with that, it's unfathomable that this would have been even approached. But what's really troubling is that Mr. Bernal directly said that Mr. Hall at the Corps and that Mr. I forget his name, at the IDNR told him this. Well, since that time, Mr. Hall has explicitly said that he would not have provided such guidance. And for the village leadership to make up and spread falsehoods and use those falsehoods as a basis for the police to suggest that they have a reasonable burden, a reasonable idea to enforce something like trespassing is a real problem. And I would ask the village to look into this and ask why village leadership is allowed to spread falsehoods. I'm going to send a little note at some point, and I'm certain the village doesn't want to be involved in a Section 1983 civil rights complaint if someone is improperly arrested for being on state-owned land where the village and the private individuals have no authority. And then finally, and there's really no one here today, so that brings me to the Bertlink sidewalk. So I'm sure that this won't be brought up in public, but as you may have known, that on Monday, the Attorney General of Illinois sent a letter to the village saying that they have decided that they want more information about the closed meetings a year ago. So that's great, because I felt like the biggest burden I had in asking them to review this was whether or not my request was timely based on reasonable diligence. And apparently, because they've asked for more information, they have decided that it was. And it is clear from emails that the village has that the board had made a determination to get rid of that sidewalk in closed session. That is improper. The only reason for closed session would have been to discuss setting a price, and there's multiple binding decisions on this. So I am very hopeful that, as opposed to the last one, the Attorney General will this time say, you know what, this is improper, and then we will all get to see what the minutes say and a verbatim transcript of a verbatim recording of what was said. I think the village should do the right thing. They should pull back the ordinance by resolution as is allowed because the owners of that property failed to make the payments as they were required. And you know, maybe this thing could go away and we can have a real public discussion of whether or not the safety of children or safety of young adults going to New Trier and back is more important than giving away land for nothing to private individuals. Again, it's my tax dollars, it's my property rights that you have given away. And I know it maybe not all of you, but you guys know about it. You guys are choosing not to do anything. You are bearing the same responsibility.
Mr. President, could I comment?
Please.
So Ted, I just want to comment, which I usually don't do on public comment, but because you've called into question the legal opinion that we gave on the public trust doctrine, I want you to know, and I want the board to know, which they already do, and I want the public to know that we have read every single one of your cases. We read your emails when they arrive. We analyze them to the extent we already haven't. We've ignored none of those cases. We knew about them all, and we're just going to have to agree to disagree. Nothing in your emails leads me to change our opinion in any way. Our opinion is consistent with the latest Illinois Supreme Court decision. The earlier Supreme Court decisions are consistent with that decision. Our opinion is consistent with other municipal attorneys, other legal scholars on this issue. So I know you don't agree, but this is public comment. I know you don't agree, but there's nothing that you've provided me or our firm that causes us to change your opinion, our opinion. So I just wanted you to know, I will respond to you in writing. Haven't had a chance to do that yet, but since you raised this publicly, I wanted to state publicly that we stand by our opinion.
Okay.
Very quickly, just 2 seconds. I will, before you respond, then I will send you, there's a draft coming out by Professor Freehold or something in the Illinois Law Review about this, and he goes into this quite extensively.
Okay. Ted, you can correspond with the village attorney, you know, as you so choose. So let's move on. Any other public comment tonight? Okay, with that, we'll close public comment. We'll move on to reports, and we'll start with the trustees. Why don't we start with you, Tina?
No report?
No report. Kirk?
No report.
Bridget?
No report.
And Kim? No report. And I have no report. Village attorney?
No report.
Oh. Out of sight,
You've
out
already
of mind.
you've already forgotten me, Bob.
Out of
What up?
sight, out of mind, trustee Apatow. What, do you have a report?
No report today. Thank you for asking, though.
Okay, you betcha. Peter, no report?
No report. No report. Thank you.
Okay, all right, we'll move on now. We'll move on to the establishment of the consent agenda. Does any trustee wish to remove any items on the consent agenda for a separate vote? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the final form of the consent agenda?
Second.
And we'll have a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Okay. And now we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. Will the village clerk read each item of the agenda?
Thank you. Approval of the Village Council minutes for September 12th, 2023 study session and the September 19th, 2023 regular meeting. Approval of the warrant list dated August 31st, 2023 through September 14th, 2023 in the amount of $1,720,283.63. Approval of the warrant list dated September 15th, 2023 through September 29th, 2023 in the amount of $3,183,629.55. Resolution number R93, 2023, approving the award of a contract with the Gold Group Excavating Incorporated for the demolition of a residential structure at 1205 Sunset Road. Resolution number R94, 2023, approving an amendment to the agreement with Safe Built Illinois for inspection and plan review services.
Great, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by omnibus vote?
So moved.
Second.
And we'll have a roll call vote.
Trustee Albinson?
Yes.
Trustee Dahlman?
Yes.
Trustee Apatoff?
Yes.
Trustee Orsic?
Yes.
Trustee Handler?
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn?
Yes. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 8, ordinances and resolutions. Resolution number R95, 2023, approving a dispatch services agreement with the Village of Glenview, and this is up for adoption. In November 2016, the villages of Glencoe, Kenilworth, Northfield, and Winnetka entered into a 7-year agreement with the Village of Glenview for consolidated dispatch services. Tonight, council will consider a 10-year renewal agreement for continued services. We have tonight with us Police Chief Brian O'Connell to review. Chief, welcome.
Thank you, Trustee Dearborn. Good evening, council. So before I begin, I'd like to recognize the efforts of Administrative Services Manager Carrie Kaup with preparation of tonight's item. It was her work throughout the last 3 months that was significant in getting us here today. So I couldn't move forward without acknowledging her. Thank you for letting me present tonight for your consideration the approval for continuing dispatch services with the Village of Glenview. To be able to provide some historic background, prior to 2017, the Winnetka Police Department provided its own in-house dispatching service to include maintaining 24-hour staffing, its own equipment purchasing and maintenance, as well as technology upgrades. In June of 2015, the Illinois Public Act 99-006, what is that? It was enacted mandating the consolidation of 911 phone centers, which are commonly known as public safety answering points. So what that meant in the simplest of terms was any municipality that was under 25,000 people were required to consolidate, forcing consideration of consolidated dispatch for us. So appreciating that mandate and the requirements of that, a number of municipalities, to include us, Northfield, Glencoe, and Kenilworth, conducted a feasibility study with the Matrix Consulting Group and evaluated our strategies and options. As a result of that effort, in November of 2016, the 4 municipalities entered into a 7-year contract with Glenview for consolidated dispatch service. Obviously, at the end of this year, that contract ends. Without getting too deep into the numbers here, I do want to appreciate that our consolidated dispatch services through Glenview has resulted in an estimated $1.2 million savings over the 7-year term. The major drivers of those savings were personnel costs, phone line service, software needs and maintenance, as well as expenditures. I do want to say, though, through this consolidation, we have continued to maintain professional quality service for our dispatching service. By consolidating with Glenview, we've had the benefit of Glenview's determination in continuing to improve and update technology as well as remaining the established consolidated dispatch center. I'd like to just highlight a few key pieces of equipment and technology that Glenview provides us that are now covered under this proposed contract. Tyler New World CAD, which is an abbreviation for Computer Aided Dispatch, our mobile and our records management system. This is the heart of what records all of the information for police work. From the moment the call gets received, dispatched to the police, that's Tyler New World CAD. It gets entered into a system. It then gets forwarded to our police mobile system, which is the computers in our cars. The officer gets that information, finishes that call. It goes into a records management system that maintains that file or that record, okay? Glenview is responsible for maintaining that software, serving for that server maintenance, and transitioning to cloud-based solutions for that program. Another key program for us is Brazos. This is a web and software-based program. Everything is going paperless. We are also transitioning and have transitioned to e-ticketing, e-traffic crash. So all electronic processing is now managed through Glenview. Socrata. Socrata is a web-based platform. It's a data analytics tool. It allows the police department to pull any real-time crime stats as well as heat mapping for problem areas in town, traffic crash problems, anything that we would like to pull a statistic on. Socrata provides us that ability to do that. I'm really excited about a program coming out in 2024 called Shield Force. It's going to provide our police officers basically their laptop mobile system on their cellular phones. So why is that important to us? Because oftentimes our police officers are in vehicles that don't have computers in their cars, are on group assignments with other teams, task forces. They'll be able to pull that information in real time. Rave Alert, we're all familiar with Rave Alert, and Smart 911. These are both platforms that Glenview assists us with. Smart 911, that profile allows the dispatcher to see any information that the individual customer would like to enter in. So for example, that 911 call that comes in attached to that phone number would give the person's name, address, the car that they drive, how many members are in that household, even the number of pets. So it provides a tremendous amount of information right away without even the caller saying anything on the phone. ASAP to PSAP interface. The abbreviation is Alarm System Automation Protocol and Public Safety Answering Point. What this does is it allows alarm system vendors, when you get an alarm at your house, that alarm system company confirms that it's a valid alarm. It gets all the information, then calls our dispatch center, transfers all that information again, then ultimately is dispatched to a police officer. That takes a significant amount of time if in fact there is a true burglary going on. Time is of the essence. What this program would allows us to do is take that information directly from the alarm system company right to the officer's terminal on their computer and to the dispatch center, expediting that process. It closes the gap. And the one that I'm most proud of is called IPAWS, Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. Why am I proud of it? Members of the Winnetka Police Department and Highland Park Police Department were the two law enforcement agencies that assisted Glenview in drafting their policy, as well as getting it approved through the Cook County Emergency Management, excuse me. What is it? It allows us to provide critical information via text message to any phone in a geographical location that we decide in a critical incident. So for example, not to bring up a tragic event in Highland Park on the 4th of July, but we would be able to disseminate a message to anybody in that geofence, regardless if they're signed up for Rave Alert, or Smart 911. We could provide that to them immediately, people coming into that geofence, people that are in there, or people leaving that geofence. It's a tremendous accomplishment, and it's live for us in Highland Park as we speak right now. I mentioned reliability earlier. Glenview is a fully redundant center. What do I mean by that? Is that they have both a north and a south center. If one center is overloaded like they were in Highland Park on July 4th, it automatically transitions the weight of those calls to the south center. North center is Highland Park. The sister center south is Glenview. Okay, so we have full capability in either center. So in June of this year, all 4 village managers and police department personnel representatives began a series of negotiations with the village of Glenview for a renewal contract. Although a 7-year term was considered, a 10-year contract stabilizes our cost for the longer term and provides certainty for our communities as well as certainty for Glenview. Negotiations were continuous over the 3 months, continuous for both sides. Ultimately, the negotiations were agreed upon with a favorable annual cost adjustment averaging 3.85% over a 10-year term. You will see a 4% increase from fiscal years 2024 through 27, and then you'll see a 3.75% increase for fiscal years 28 through 33. The cost of the fiscal year for 24 dispatching services totals just over $560,000. And the cost of the life of the 10-year contract, just over $6.6 million, with a contract ending December 31st, 2023. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have for me.
Any questions for Brian? Go ahead, Kim.
First, great job to negotiate a 10-year contract with these very, what appear to be very reasonable price increases over 10 years in this inflationary environment is great. So thank you on that. Are there any major changes in this agreement versus the one that's going to be expiring in December?
No, if anything, we're getting the benefit of the add-ons where we were paying separately for some of these equipment and programs that I mentioned earlier. They are now rolled into this contract.
Okay. The cover letter here mentions the past contract saved us $130,000 in capital expenditure. Were those ones that we hadn't budgeted before we entered into this contract, so they're just costs we avoided? Versus, because going forward, we wouldn't be budgeting any capital expenditures for this, correct? Since the Glenview carries all the capital expenditures.
That's correct.
Okay.
I wasn't, my apologies, but this was negotiated prior to my term in office here.
So there was, as it says, this was, they were awarded consolidation grants. So after we consolidated, they applied for the grants that would help offset some of the costs of the capital investment. And Glenview was able to get a significant grant that resulted in $130,000 for Winnetka in savings.
But even in this past contract, were we responsible for capital expenditures for this program? It seems like it
There
says in here
was,
that it's.
part of the overall fee included capital. So this was to offset the capital that we had to buy into. And we also had avoided capital costs by
Okay.
not having capital at our own facility. Because we were at a point where we either need to upgrade our systems or consolidate.
Okay.
So their capital was kind of happening on two different sides, two analysis of capital.
Okay, and so that just feeds into then in the first paragraph too, it says the new contract doesn't include additional savings from future capital expenditures. Does that mean operating savings that come out of new capital investments?
you, Trustee Hill?
In the executive summary,
What paragraph?
first paragraph.
Okay.
So is that just referring to, usually if you make a
So-
capital
so
expenditure,
as we-
the operating savings that come from capital
So
expenditure?
we estimated $1.2 million in savings over the life of this 7-year contract. That $1.2 million did not include additional savings from capital expenditures that were anticipated had we stayed on our own.
Okay.
And it could have been a little clearer, but that was the avoided capital that I referred to just a couple minutes ago.
Okay, and just sort of one
We
other
didn't
one.
want to overstate the savings, I
Yeah.
think is what we're trying to say.
Okay, so that is in the past then. Just one other question. Obviously, 10 years, you just talked about several new programs even coming, or new software applications that are coming on board. So 10 years is a long life in the world of technology. So 5, 6 years from now, there's another new entirely program we want to add on that's not necessarily mandated, but something that would be good to do. It sounds like the Glenview would incur those capital expenses, but am I correct that if there are operating costs, we would, it looks like there's a clause in here that we renegotiate some of that? So there's a little,
There's a potential opening for that, depending upon the scale.
okay.
But
I don't
generally,
think there'd be anything significant.
no, and we would all have to agree to it. And the other aspect of this agreement is that we were with our neighboring communities, Glencoe, Northfield, Kenilworth, Winnetka, went in as a team, and that gave us better leverage with respect to
Yeah,
negotiations.
no, I think it's a great contract. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have a question? Oh, okay. You want to jump the line. Quick question. I think when we were talking about the call center last year, Chris had expressed some concern about level of service. I personally have not had any issues with level of service, but I thought in Chris's absence, I would raise the issue. Have there been any concerns? I mean, one, we are forced to consolidate, right? We had no choice. It sounds like it's efficient use of government resources to require us to consolidate, and it sounds like it's working like a very good program. It allows us to invest in technology as a group that probably individually we couldn't afford. But are there any concerns that you're aware of level of service?
I'm not. I believe that, like any program, there are at times struggles. They are experiencing the same need to train new people as new people come into the field, and learning that is sometimes slower than anticipated, like any program. But I could tell you that the relationship that previous Chief Mark Hornstein had with Director Reynolds, as well as the relationship that Carrie and I have with Director Reynolds, anytime there is an issue that comes up, he's almost on the forefront of getting to us before we're even aware of it. If there was a complaint that came in from a caller or something like that, it is addressed, and I have confidence in Director Reynolds with our relationship, how things are going. Runs a really tight ship over there.
And I would assume as these technological advances, like the geofencing and other applications, it reduces some of the issues with maybe human error or human delay. Is that
Absolutely.
the future state? Yeah,
We hope so.
okay. Thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you.
I was just going to add, Chief O'Connell mentioned IPAWS, and Glenview was pursuing IPAWS on all their customers' behalf or municipalities' behalf, but they ran into some troubles with Cook County. And we approached Commissioner Scott Britton, who's our representative now, and he was instrumental in pushing that forward and getting IPAWS implemented for our communities. And it really took the commissioner to push Cook County to move at a pace that we wanted to move at. So that I wanted to make sure he got that recognition, and thank him.
Thank you. Yes.
Great. Trustee Apatoff, any questions for Chief O'Connell?
Yeah, I just one quick one. Our new license plate readers, that technology, is that go through Glenview as well, or is that separate directly to us?
So the license plate readers are continuing to be installed throughout the village. We're running into some low-level IDOT concerns regarding that, but it'll be addressed. But it's going to be a careful balance of what they will be alerting municipalities to across the board. If you can imagine, if there's not a line in the sand about what the alert will hit on and what is dispatched, it would overwhelm any dispatch service. So we have begun to have those conversations with Director Reynolds about what they would like to see through not just Winnetka, but all municipalities as the license plate reader continues to get established on the North Shore.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. At this point, we'll ask for any public comment, any comment from the public on this agenda item. We have 2 people in the public. Would you like to comment? Questions? No? No questions from the public, so we'll close public comment, bring it back here. And any final comments, I would say that, and I agree with Trustee Dahlman, I think this is, assuming that the service has been working as expected, maybe the growing pains, we've gotten through those and so on and so forth. It is a nice example of communities coming together and leveraging resources and now able to do some things maybe that the community couldn't do on its own. And that's great to hear, and I agree, the 10-year contract is kind of nice to get in place and a nice service to have sort of locked in. So, any further comments from council members before we vote on this?
Nope.
And also, I'd like to, Brian, I think that's awfully nice that you share the credit appropriately with Carrie behind you. She's behind Trustee Apatoff, as far as I'm concerned. I can't really see, but Carrie, thank you very much. That's some heavy lifting on this. Thank you. So we appreciate that. Okay. So may I have a motion to adopt resolution number R95, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
And we'll have a roll call vote. Rob?
Certainly. Trustee Handler,
Yes.
Trustee Orsic,
Yes.
Trustee Apatoff,
Yes.
Trustee Dahlman,
Yes.
Trustee Albinson,
Yes.
Trustee Dearborn.
Yes. Okay, that passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Much appreciated. We'll move on to item 9, old business. There is none. Item 10, new business. There is none. No appointments, no closed session. And now, the moment of truth, the adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We
Aye.
are adjourned. Rob, have a good evening.
Been a pleasure.
Hey, thanks.